If you're paying attention, you might have noticed my layers disappeared over here. Well, what I'm going to do next, I didn't want to do to that file because it had something that was exactly the size of this artboard. This is an artboard, this white space in Illustrator. But how do I know how big this artboard is? Well, like always, there's a bunch of different ways to do it, but I want to show you the Artboard tool. See it right here? You roll over it, there's the Artboard tool, and look, it's showing them changing the size and adding artboards. Can you believe it? Yeah. So we're not going to work with multiple artboards just yet, but I want to change the size of this. And I want to know what size it is. So if I click once on it, well, there's the artboard. How big is it? Well, look up here. We got the width and height set right there. And you know, we could also see it over here in the Properties Inspector, right? And I want to change the size of this artboard to the size of your wallpaper on your 4K monitors, which is 2048 by 1152. Now I could just type those numbers in, but I want to control how this grows. I'm going to hit Command minus to see a little more of my canvas so we can see what's going on. I want to keep this right in the center, and I want to expand in both directions from the center. Well, remember before I told you about the reference point right here? We can click this center reference point, which says, hey, do everything from the center. Remember the center, how we can find it with, there it is, with Smart Guides. So don't change the X and Y, that's the position of where this is. I'm going to double click on 1000 pixels, and we want our width to be 2048. I'm going to hit Tab to get to that next field and type in 1152. And you saw that it grew from the center. Now, what do we do if we want to start working and get rid of this dotted line? Because we can accidentally move this, right? I'm going to hit Command Z to undo that. Never try to put things back. Always use Command Z. And all we have to do is click on another tool. And there we have it. But we can't see the whole artboard. Command 0. Depending on what's going on, this is going to act differently. I'm going to hit Command minus, and then I'm going to get the space bar and pull this over. Now you can see we can see the entire artboard, and we have lots of room because we're working full screen in Illustrator. And I want to show you a couple other things. I want to get a rectangle and draw a perfect square. So I'm going to hold down Shift and just draw a square. About that size. Now I want to do things with it. What if I want this square right on the edge? And yeah, I could move it over here, you know, and I could use the Smart Guides and all that, but I just want to come up here and show you this align. By default, it's aligned to Artboard. See it right here? Align to Artboard when you roll over it, but if you click and hold, you can see you can align to selection. Well, right now, there's only one object, so align to selection is no good, and align to key object is grayed out. We're going to see both of those in a minute. But right now, align into Artboard says, yeah, put it on the left. Put it in the center on the left. You put it on the top. In the center on the top. Put it on the left. In the center on the left. Or the bottom. Or the bottom center. Top center. Kind of get the idea. You can move this around. That's great for aligning to the artboard. Quite often, the only way we're going to use align to artboard is put it in the center and put it in the center. Okay, so now this thing is in the mathematical center, which is not the optical center. We'll get to that. But what if we had more than one of these? You know, what if I move this over here and held down Option and drug out a copy and drug out a copy, intentionally not keeping these things aligned? What if I wanted to align all these things? Well, I'd have to select them. Member, align to selection. So I'm going to select all three of these by clicking and dragging. And if I wanted to select two of them, like this one and this one, I could click and drag down here or hold Shift to select this. Or if I clicked and dragged all three and I only wanted these two, I could Shift click on this to deselect it. So Shift adds and subtracts depending upon whether you're clicking on it to add it, or clicking on it to subtract it. I want all three selected. Those little tricks there, you really want to know those, because shift clicking is going to help you so much. Now I want to align these three things. So I can align them to the center horizontally. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Command Z, undo. I want to align them to the center this way. Okay, so align to the center vertically. Oh, but I wanted to align them to this one, not to this one. Okay, click once. We have all three of them selected. I'm going to click again to deselect. All three of them are selected. When you click a selected object, when there's more than one selected, you make it a key object. So now, instead of aligning the selection, we want to align the key object, and you see how this automatically changed. Sometimes you have to do this manually. Sometimes Illustrator just says, I know what you want to do. And then when we align vertically, everything aligns that way. But what if we want these spaced out perfectly? I want the same amount of space between here and here. Well, we can get rid of that key object and just distribute these from the left-hand side, and they are now distributed. Now, what if I want to center everything? Well, they're all selected. Can't we just center them this way? No, you figured that out. You knew it was all going to jumble in the center. We need to make this one piece somehow. We need to group these together. Command G for group. Object, group. I never go up here, so half the time if I'm fumbling around looking for these, it's because I just use shortcuts. And you might notice ungroup is Shift Command G. So I'm going to group those. And actually, I'm going to undo that. So you can see the better way to do it is Command G. And now, when I center these, they stay in the center. So just remember, Command G to group. If I click away, one click selects everything. Shift Command G ungroups, and you can work independent of one another and move these things to your heart's content, including overlapping them, and start working with the shape builder to see what you can create.